gentlemen, it is my extreme pleasure to have you all with the Sadgamaya family at our event this evening. I take the privilege in honoring each one of you for your choice of spending an evening as a Sadgamaya guest. As you may all be looking forward to, our team is ready with our hearts full of joy, the program full of high spiritual content, which means plenty of food for your thought, and of course a delightful dinner on our menu. We would like to serve you all the best way we can, so may I please ask you to approach one of us wearing those purple lanyards if by any chance you need anything over the course of the event. It is our honor to have the young, vibrant and enormously talented guest speaker Sri Dhruv Chhatralia ji to share with us his words of wisdom. So may I take this opportunity to extend our warm welcome to Dhruv ji on behalf of the Sadgamaya family. We are extremely delighted to have with us yet another time the family members from Chinmaya Mission who've been an integral part of the work we've been conducting in the UK so far. So may I welcome the entire team of our guests from Chinmaya Mission to the event today. Yet another important presence within our event tonight. May I welcome on behalf of our team, Mr. Ramachandran, who is part of the Nightingale Publishers and the Vedic Cosmos, who will be showcasing their work for us here today. The Vedic Cosmos brings to us supreme Hindu literature by adding a touch of novelty. Please feel free to explore one of the world's most amazing copy of our Bagavad Gita. They've displayed here for us yet another time. The Gita we have here today is a unique handcrafted ornament that anyone could adorn their homes with. And we are extremely fortunate to have their presence at our event today. Last but not the least, I extend my complete joy in welcoming each and every one of you, brothers, sisters, mums, dads, and all our young people, all aboard on our spiritual journey at this segment of Sadgamaya's Bhagavad Gita in Sutton. Mrs. Sumati Menon will now take over from me to keep you informed through the program of the day. Thank you and pranams.
Okay, I think now we have reached the point that we've all been waiting for, and this is, it gives me immense pleasure, now that I've met him, even more pleasure. We feel very honored to have Shri Dhruv Chhatralia for our Prabhashanam, Discourse on Karma Yoga. Shri Dhruv Chhatralia, as you may all know already, is first and foremost a Krishna Bhakta and a true champion of Hinduism. He has authored 21 books on Hinduism, and is an exemplary speaker, having given over 300 public talks on Bhagavad Gita, Hanuman Chalisa, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Upanishads, the Vedas, yoga and meditation. His 300th talk was reciting the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Purana in as little as 2.5 hours in the Houses of Parliament in front of many people, and that was the first time that has ever happened. He has a huge social media following globally with over 400,000 views on YouTube and 340,000 fans on Facebook and growing. All this while his day job is working and excelling as an international mergers and acquisition lawyer at a law firm in the city. He has written the longest ever English commentaries on Indian works, the Bhagavad Gita, Hanuman Chalisa and Sri Sutton in history. Between them comprising over 3,500 pages, 2.4 million words. He has created a program of over 180 Bhagavad Gita, Hanuman Chalisa, Sri Sutton classes in English to educate youngsters in Eastern scriptures. It is indeed an honor for all of us to hear him enlighten us with his views on Karma Yoga. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Dhruv.
Sharatam Vasatam Vasatam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwarai Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Narayan Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Om Gargavataye Namaha Shri Saraswati Namaha Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dear friends, welcome here to the Sadgamaya Foundation's event on the Bagavad Gita entitled Karma Yoga. Dear friends, when I was studying school, I was studying business management for my GCSEs. A certain phrase stood out to me throughout as an important topic of the course. This phrase came up again and again during my course, and it was job satisfaction. Over the last few years, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge and experienced what this word really means. I've been through circumstances or experienced what happens when one does not have job satisfaction. I'm very grateful to the divine because sometimes one's life is filled with such occasions where one has to do activities that does not give one satisfaction and that feel meaningless. I've spent many years of my life in this way, and it's the Lord's eternal grace that over the last 8 years I've done something which I desire to do from inside. I feel deep inside that yes, this is where I belong and this is what I want to do. And if you get to do what you desire from within, then it's because of the Bhagwan's divine grace you're able to do it. It gives me a unique sense of happiness that I've been given the right to be showered by Bhagwan's grace. The Bhagwan has given me the opportunity to spread and promote his sacred thoughts. I began this journey many years ago when I completed my GCSE exams, my summer vacation commenced. I studied and attended discourses on the Gita when I was very, very young. Since then, the bond I have formed with the Mother Gita has been getting stronger and stronger every day. To this date, I have never experienced any ebb coming into this relationship. Moreover, the spreading and promoting of the sacred thoughts of the Gita that this holy and pure work involves has enabled me to achieve unity with divinity through the 4 yogas. I have been fortunate to attend a religious foundation as pure as Sadgamaya Foundation. I always use the word pure when mentioning religious foundations, and the word pure can be used on various occasions, but I always use the word pure when mentioning dharmic foundations, and the word pure is very important to me. I have received many requests to go and speak on the Bagavad Gita, but for me, I don't need the mic. These are not requests. Just like a child has been waiting for ages, and you give the child something in its hand that makes it happy, in the same way, this is activity that makes me happy. When people say to me they're grateful to me for giving these discourses, I tell them, you can be grateful to me for anything, but please don't be grateful for this, because I'm grateful to you and the Sadgamaya Foundation for giving me the opportunity to do what I enjoy. The Gita is a very special scripture. Because of the divine's grace, I've read the scriptures of all the religions, but the Gita is such a scripture that in such a small amount of words, in such an unfailing way, describes the metaphysics of life. Warren Hastings described this as a scripture of death and killing, and as one that describes how one can win in life. Related to this, I'm going to say that I'm a warrior. I have great pleasure in saying this, and I have the full right to say this with great courage. I'm a warrior. I do not like to cry in life. I do not like to run away from life. I like to go to war, in inverted commas. And whenever going to war in my life, whenever I face troubling circumstances, I found my inspiration in the Mother Gita. My situation during these battles can be compared to a familiar situation when you watch films. Who's seen Yuri? How's the Josh? One becomes so involved with the film that they put themselves in the shoes of one of the characters. For example, when you see women using up boxes and boxes of tissues, crying over the plot of sad films because they're so sad, they experience what it's like to be one of these characters. This is psychologically a very natural human thing to do. In the same way, I imagined myself in the chariot going to war, in the same position that Arjun was in the Mahabharata. During the war of life, whenever I've needed inspiration or willpower, then I've seen myself standing in the place of Arjun in the chariot. I have thought that Sri Krishna is speaking to me rather than Arjun. From this process, I've gained great strength. The strength and power I've gained by reflecting and meditating on the Gita, which has grown over days, months, and years, I now wish to give to you all. I will never say that I'm knowledgeable, and I will never say I'm the rightful spokesperson of the Gita, and no one can say this. I've learned the Gita from very great personalities. I've read, listened to, and thought about various versions of the Gita. The prasad of this I wish to give to you all. When one looks at society, one has two ways of measuring it. One is the way of materiality, and the other is the way of spirituality.
You can measure a person materially, and when you can measure them metaphysically or spiritually. When you use the way of materiality, you look at what one possesses, and this becomes important. Who has what? How big is his house? How many cars does he have? What is his business? How much in his bank account? How much he possesses, and what one has becomes important in materiality. But when you measure someone by the way of spirituality, what you have is not important, but who you are is important. Who are you? Having does not become important, but being becomes important. And the realization and the shape of being is important. The problems and miseries of the modern age are mainly as a result, in my opinion, of the predominance of materiality and the forgetting of spirituality. Because nowadays, people are measured by not who they are, but what they have. And every individual wants to prove himself. In front of himself first, in front of his family second, in front of his society or group, for example, relatives, friends, and acquaintances third, and finally, in front of the world at large. Every person is trying to prove himself. And when each person tries to prove themselves, all they see and all they look for in another person is what that person has got. Sarve guna kanchan nashante. When the only measure of a person is what he possesses, and every person is trying to prove themselves, then there's only one road left to take. I will keep gathering what I can. Then the world will respect me. Then the world would adore me, which I'm trying to look for in other people. When we talk nowadays of materiality and ask what it is, it's nothing than everyone trying to prove that there's something. And because they have to gather things to prove that there's something, they gather those things. They run after objects. The person running after the objects knows that there's nothing in these objects. I see owners of various objects in front of me. They have many kinds of things. And I meet people who have piles and piles of things, but within them there is something empty. There's always something missing from their lives. Then why run after these things? Moreover, once you have found out that there's nothing in these objects, then why do you still run after these things? One of the effects of running after objects is one is not running for himself, but for other people. I have no need for objects. Once you have an affluence of objects, one of the effects is that they become worthless. When you have 10 cars in the garage and the 11th car comes, then it hardly makes a difference. No one in the house even knows that the other car has come. No one knows for 15 to 20 days. And when the daughter goes to college and goes to find a car, she would ask the driver if it's a new car. And this is affluence. Why does one still run after objects? They are not running for themselves, but for other people. And after running after other people, they just become emptier and emptier. And in their heart, there is a feeling of deep sadness. This is the problem of the modern age. This was the problem at the end of the 20th century. This is the problem at the beginning of the 21st century. Why is the Gita necessary today? Because a few years back, people decided that if they gathered those things, they will be happy. But now they have these things, yet there is still a deficiency. When one is sad because they do not have the object's desire, then this is a very shallow unhappiness. They are without possessions, but when they're sad and they have those possessions, that sadness is very deep. When one is sad because they're hungry, then once you hand them 2 chapatis, then the sadness goes away. But what about the sadness after one's stomach is filled? This sadness is a very deep sadness. Today, fast progress has been beneficial in many ways, and which has benefited everyone. 50 years ago, when of you came to the UK for the first time, happiness was not as easily available as this. Life was very problematic. In between all these happy moments, what will I do when I'm sad? There is an ocean of happiness nowadays, and the island on which person is sitting is one of sadness. Every now and then, one has to come back to the island. You can go to swim in the ocean, you may swim for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but you have to come back to the island. You cannot keep swimming in the ocean because you're a person and not a fish. And whenever a person comes to the island after swimming in the ocean, the fury of sadness becomes unbearable. Until now, society has been described as economists, as a split between haves and have-nots. I want to describe a third type of person, have-nots in spite of being haves. They have everything, and yet they have an experience of not having. And this sadness is a major sadness of society today. What does the Gita say about this major sadness of today? How will Sri Krishna be able to help us deal with this sadness? With that vision in mind, and with the challenges of modern life in mind, we are going to study the Gita. And only then is the Gita useful. Otherwise, we just have the 5 Pandavas and Arjuna standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He does not want to fight, and Lord Krishna tells him to fight. What has that got to do with you or me? The war happens and the Pandavas won. Everything was finished. It all worked out in the end. Now what? It has no value other than the story. Then why has it remained a major scripture for ages and ages? There is only one reason. Sambhavami yuge yuge. I come into being from age to age. This is my vision of the meaning of the Gita because it applies to every battle. Arjuna did not know at the time that 5,000 years later, the words that Sri Krishna is saying to him will be meaningful to us, help us in this respect. But Sri Krishna knew, and that is why Sri Krishna said, Sambhavami yuge yuge. It has always been the case that in different eras, in different meanings that the Gita has had for different people, has made the listener or the reader feel like the Gita is for them. Only Sri Krishna knew this. Only Sri Krishna knew that the Gita is a contemporary scripture. It has always been a contemporary scripture. We are now going to pay our respects to Sadgamaya Gita. The bond that we have lost with the Supreme Being, Bhagwan and spirituality, that we're going to attempt to re-establish fully once again. And we're going to do this with the words of the Supreme Being himself, the words of Bhagwan himself. In today's times, machines have developed and have appreciated, but human beings have depreciated. We'll therefore go through this journey of the Gita from a practical perspective. We're not just going to study the scripture, get up and brush our clothes clean. I'm going to be bold from the beginning. Me, the layman, and everyone, whoever wants to study this book, get up and brush their clothes clean, is probably going to be disappointed. It is good they're going to be disappointed. I do not recommend you want to listen, get up and just brush their clothes clean, should study this book. For those who want to gain something from the scripture, for those who want to gain something from the words of Sri Krishna, and for those who want to take their lives in the right direction, I will try, with the blessings of Sri Krishna, to make sure that those people do not go back empty-handed. We're going to study the scripture in chapters, and today chapter 2 and chapter 3, Karma Yoga, Samkhya Yoga. Therefore, I would like all of you to carry your scriptures with you. We are Hindus, but we are humans. The fact that we are Hindus is secondary. Because we are humans, we must study the Gita. A lot of people claim that the Gita is a Bible of Hinduism. I strongly oppose. This is an insult to the Gita, it's an insult to the Bible, and it's an insult to Hinduism. The Gita is the Gita, the Bible is the Bible. Comparing to the Gita and the Bible is like comparing a pineapple and a mango. Both fruits are different, and you can't compare them. You can compare two mangoes, and even if there's two types of mangoes, you can compare them. Though if they're in a pile, it's difficult to compare them logically. Then how can you compare two scriptures and say that the Gita is a Bible of Hinduism? This is wrong. And Hinduism, the Gita is not a Hindu scripture. It is a scripture of humanity. The 700 verses of the Gita do not contain the word Hindu anywhere. In fact, no name of any religions appear in the Gita because the religions were only recently given names. The labels we give to religions such as Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, etc., how did they come? Christianity is 2018 years old because when Christ was not there, then Christianity was not there. Islam is around 1,500 years old. Buddhism and Jainism are beautiful religions, and they're splits of Hinduism, and Buddha's and Mahavira's teachings are around 2,500 years old. The rest of religions are relatively new. 600 to 1,000 years ago, other religions such as Sikhism came about. The Gita is a scripture that represents Vedic Sanskrit thoughts. And for Vedic Sanskrit thoughts and scriptures, we use the word Sanatan. Sanatan is that whose beginning is not known. It has been there forever. We do not know when it began. Researchers and scholars all over the world say that the Rig Veda is the oldest existing literature of mankind. We have found the Rig Veda, but who knows about the other Vedic scriptures that have been lost? These scriptures and these traditions have been there from the beginning, are best represented by the Bhagavad Gita. Before we begin our study of the Bhagavad Gita, I would like to bow down to various great personalities. To begin, I have always felt that a people, be they a scientist or a religious preacher, always stand on the shoulders of their teachers. For example, Lord Govinda broke the pots that were held up there, but he had to stand on so many people's shoulders to climb up there and break the pots. If it was not for the 15 or 20 people underneath, then he would not be able to climb and break the pot. Whenever I've broken the pot to gain the makhan of knowledge of the Supreme Being, that too I've stood on the shoulders of many great personalities. They've helped me and have shaped my thoughts. Therefore I wish to thank all of them. First and foremost, I'm eternally thankful to our Sri Krishna, otherwise we have not met today. I am thankful for Arjun, who with his fingers played the strings of the sitar. by the name of Sri Krishna. If a sitar is sitting in the room and there's no one to play it with the fingers, then the sitar will stay there for years and years. You need someone to play it with their fingers. And in my opinion, Arjun is a musician who had played the music of Sri Krishna's philosophy of life and has therefore brought it to us. I'm grateful to Maharishi Vyas, who has wrote the words of the scripture so that we can study it today. I'm thankful to our great Rishi tradition. This is a yagna taking place of a vast amount of wisdom, and I can see what we have is probably 100th of the part of it. This is a snowball effect that I've been seeing for years, and I know what's going to happen next. Therefore, at the inception of this study, I'd like to express my gratitude. I'm grateful to Swami Vivekananda. From my childhood, I've always felt that he's my older brother. I'm not able to understand why this is. When I was young and we used to go to the Great Gateway of India, I always liked to go to a statue. I did not like to go for lunch. I did not like to go to Elephanta Caves. I did not like going anywhere. During these vacations, everyone used to be magnetized and stare at the 5-star Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. My friends used to stare at this hotel. I used to stare at Swami Vivekananda. I was always felt that it's my older brother standing there. Wherever Indian Sanskrit knowledge I've been magnetized towards, for that I'll be thankful to two people. One is my mother, and the other is Swami Vivekananda. My mother's values and a small story she used to tell me when I was a child gave me constant companion through my childhood. And only then I was able to learn. And while I sat in a lap as a child listening to the scriptures, now I still sit in a lap describing the stories to you. But I remember so much about those days, and my second was Swami Vivekananda. I've read his works in details and I've formed my strong vision of life for him. I am grateful for I've studied and heard the works of many saints, but particularly when studying the Bagavad Gita, I'm grateful to Pandit Shripad Damodar Satwakarji. His name is perhaps not so well known to society, but whoever wants to learn the Gita in its true meaning must study his work called the Purshat Buddhi Granth. He has written it in 3 languages, Gujarati, Hindi and Marathi. He is a saint of the 20th century. Near the town of Baldi, there's a small center called Swadhyay Mahal, where he did a yagna throughout his whole life. He has given us translations of all the 4 Vedas, and these are authentic translations. He has given us a translation of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata and Gita. He has given discourses and written books of many Puranas and of yoga. Nowadays, whenever I give a discourse on the Gita, immediately remember Pandit Shripad Damodar Satwakarji. His commentary on the Bhagavad Gita is so deep and meaningful that whenever I speak on the Gita, one would think that these are Pandit Shripad Damodar Satwakarji's thoughts. Just like we say that for Vyasji, that Vasto Chittam Jagat Sarvam, all the world of knowledge, in whatever branch of learning, art or science, is only that which has been said by Ved Vyas in some place or another. I can say with full confidence that in the last 50 years, all the world of knowledge on the Gita is contained in the writings of Satwakarji. Moreover, I'm very grateful to the following. Param Puja Pandurang Shastri Atohole. I've studied his discourses a lot during my childhood. Srila Prabhupada, Vinoba Bhave, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Prasanna Das Manek, Rajishni, Juvan Maskaro, Annie Besant, Ravi Shankar Maharaj, Gudvant Shah for his modern shorts, Pujya Bhai Shankar Bhai Purohit, and then Uma Shankar Joshi, Swami Sachidananji, Swami Sivananji, and I'm taking his name last but with full respect, Swami Shri Akhananda Saraswati Maharaj. The book that Swami Shri Akhananda Saraswati Maharaj has written on the Gita and his great knowledge on the scripture is wonderful. If I have any pleasure in breaking down each word and studying the Gita or any other scripture grammatically, then it comes from reading Sri Swamiji's writings. I think how great would it be if I had his outstanding knowledge of the Sanskrit language. And finally, also last but not least, my own Pujashri Guruji, Pujashri Bhupendra Bhai Pandya, who asked me to write the longest commentary of the Bhagavad Gita in history through his teachings and to give these 300 talks on the Gita. I'm extremely thankful to all these great personalities, as well as many others, both known and unknown, their writings and their thoughts. And I begin this study of the Bhagavad Gita by bowing down to their feet. So let us, when we begin our study of the Bhagavad Gita, we would like to do a little retrospection of the first chapter because we're skipping to Karma Yoga. I really like the word in Sanskrit called Sihavalokam, which means retrospection in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, there are 3 types of avalokan, which are observations. Such is the beauty of Sanskrit. There are Vihangalokam, Mrugavalokam, and Sihavalokam. As regarding the first one, Vihavalokam, Vihan means a bird. A bird observes when it's flying in the sky, looking down, then we say it has a bird's eye view. It can see a lot of things, and at the same time, but it's no point in looking this way because there's not that much detail in this view. One may say that they've seen things from this view, but they don't understand anything. For example, if an aeroplane takes off from Heathrow Airport, you can look down and you can see the whole of London in one go, but you cannot say that you've seen London. In one way, you've seen it, but not completely. You can tell someone that you've seen London, but if they ask you where Big Ben is, then you'll scratch your head saying that you don't know, because you've only seen London from above. But if you stay in London for 7 days, go for a satsang at Parliament that we have, and you'll know where it is and what happens there. Therefore, Vihangalokam does not have much significance. Secondly, there is Mrugavalokam. Mruga means a deer. A deer is a very fearful animal. When it walks in the jungle, then after a few steps, it looks back to make sure that nothing is coming behind it to attacking or tracing it. It keeps turning around and looking back. This is Mrugavalokam, but there is fear in this. The third is Sihavalokam. When the king of the jungle, the lion, is walking in the jungle, then it takes about 10 to 15 steps, and with style, it looks back on how it's walked. The people who observe lions say it's the behavior of a lion is a display of its royalty and because of its pride. It observes how much it has walked and where. Only then does it carry on walking. Therefore, the observation that we're going to do is a Sihavalokam. The Gita began with Dhritarashtra's question to Samkhya about what his sons and the sons of Pandu did in the battlefield. Samkhya said that Duryodhana went to Dronacharya, and Duryodhana told Drona that the others, that wherever you are, look after Bhishma, because as long as he has Bhishma, then he has no need to worry. Bhishma saw that Duryodhana was very scared, and so to get rid of his fear, Bhishma blew his conch. When the ruling party's commander blew his conch, all the conches, the kettle drums and other instruments were played on both sides. On the other side, the Pandavas, the first conch was blown not by the commander-in-chief of the army, but by Sri Krishna, because the Pandavas knew that the war was a responsibility given to them by the Supreme Being. The Pandavas thought that if the Supreme Being wishes for us to go to the battlefield, then so be it. After Sri Krishna blew the conch, then Arjun blew his conch, followed by Bhim, Yudhishthir, and many others, such as Draupadi's brother Dushaduma. After all these conches were blown, the sound rent the hearts of the Kauravas. After seeing the Kaurava army, Arjun asked Sri Krishna to take his chariot between the two armies. Sri Krishna took the chariot between the two armies and told Arjun that the warriors on either side were standing there in battle. Arjun looked at both sides and thought, who are these people? Looking at both the armies, Arjun saw his own people, then thought, how I do battle with these people, my own people? Arjun tells Sri Krishna that he cannot fight because he only sees bad consequences of the war. This is because he will have to kill his own people. After thinking about all the bad consequences, his bow, the Gandiva, slips from his hands. His mouth goes dry. His skin is burning. He cannot stand and he's feeling dizzy on all sides. Then Arjun describes the bad consequences of going into battle. The first bad consequences would be the destruction of the ancient laws of the family, and the effect of this would first be felt in the women of families. And when the women, this corruption happens, the confusion of the Varna arises. Then the spirits of the Pitrus fall, deprived of offerings of rice and water. As a result, the moral laws of Varna and family are destroyed. And Arjun heard that the people of families whose laws are destroyed must live in hell. Arjun said, "Oh Bhagwan, it would be better for me if the soldiers on the opposite side, with weapons in their hand, should slay me in battle while I remain unresisting and armed." And after this, Samkhya said that Arjun sank down on the back seat of his chariot, casting away his bow and arrow, with his spirit overwhelmed by sorrow, and told Sri Krishna he would not fight. At that moment, we bow down to the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita starts with Samkhya describing what happened next. So the first shloka of chapter 2, so to him who is thus overcome by pity, Sri Krishna, his eyes were filled with tears and who was troubled and much depressed in mind, Madhusudana, Krishna spoke this word. Let us chant the shlokas one by one. Samkhya uvacha
Samkhya uvacha
tam tata krupaya vrishtam
tam tata vrishtam
ashrupule kulashanam
ashrupule kulashanam
vididantam idam vyakyam
vididantam idam vyakyam
uvacha Madhusudana.
uvacha Madhusudana.
Now Sri Krishna begins to speak. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutasvam Kamasham Etam Vishame Samupashtitam
Vishame Samupastitam
Anyajustam Aswargam
Anyajustam
Akirkitam Arjuna. So Sri Krishna tells the Blessed Lord said, wherefore has come to you this stain, this dejection of spirit in this hour of crisis? It's unknown to people of noble mind, not cherished by the Aryans. It does not lead to heaven. On earth, it causes disgrace, O Arjun. So verse 3, Klebhyam ma smagam partha Neitoi tvayam upadyate Shrudram hridayam balyam Takto tishwaparam tapa. Look at the strong verses Sri Krishna uses. He says, yield not to this impotence. He called Arjun impotent, O Partha, for it does not befit you. Cast off this petty faint-heartedness and arise, O oppressor of the foes. Now let's go to the fourth shloka. So Arjuna Vacha Katham Bhishmam Aham Samkhya Dronam Cha Madhusudana Ishubi Pratishomi Pujarhav Arisudana. So Arjun, he says, how shall I strike Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of worship, O Madhusudana, with arrows in battle, O slayer of the foes? It is better to live in this world by begging than to slay those honored teachers. Though they are mindful of their gains, they are my teachers, and by slaying them only, I would enjoy in this world delights which are smeared with blood. Nor do we know which is better, whether we conquer them or they conquer us. The sons of Dhritarashtra, whom if we slew we would not care to live, are standing before us in battle array. Then, in the 7th verse, he says, my very being is stricken with weakness, sentimental pity. With my mind bewildered about my duty, I ask you, tell me for certain which is better. I am your people. Teach me who am seeking refuge in you. Arjun accepts Sri Krishna as his teacher. That is verse 7. And so we go on to verse 8. Arjun says, I do not see what will drive away this sorrow which drives up my senses, even if I should attain rich and unrivaled kingdom on earth and even the sovereignty of the gods. Then Samkhya in the 9th verse says, having thus addressed Rishikesha Krishna, the mighty Gudakesha Arjun said to Govinda, I will not fight, and he became silent. Now we get into our commentary of verse 10 of Gita. Tvam uvacha Rishikesha
Tvam uvacha Rishikesha
Prahasam iva Bharata
Prahasamiva Bharata
Senayor upayo madhye
Sanayo Upavadye
Vishidantam idam vacha.
Vishidantam idam vancha.
To him thus depressed in the middle of the two armies of Bharata, Dhritarashtra, Rishikesha Krishna, smiling as it were, he spoke this word. So now we begin our commentary on the 11th shloka. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Ashocham Anushvam Tvam
Asochan Anusvatvam
Pragna Vadam Sapashashe
Prajnavadam Asasya
Gatasun Agatasum Cha
Gatasum Masa
No Nushyanti Pandita.
No Nushanti Padita.
So the direct translation is, the Blessed Lord said, you grieve about those who you should not grieve for, yet you speak words about wisdom. Wise men do not grieve for the dead or for the living. So this verse must be understood properly as Samkhya begins here. This chapter is called Samkhya Yoga, and it begins in this verse. There are 3 themes in chapter 2 of the Gita. The explanation of the first, the mortality of the body, and the immortality of the soul begins here. Under this theory, one should not grieve or get worried when a person dies. It's very, very important because we have a misconception about this. The word Samkh comes from Samkhya. Out of all the different thoughts that were becoming prevalent, one of them was Samkhya Theory. The meaning of Samkhya is Samkhyayanam, to think divine thoughts. Samkhya is not just a number, you have to think good thoughts. In Amarkosh, Amarshi gave us words to understand what this Samkhya means. Chancha, Samkhya, Vichirya. Samkhya means to think. To ponder about the meaning of something is Samkhya. Only after thinking about a scripture do you understand it. Secondly, Samkhya Khara Vichena is a definition given in the Hemkoch by Hemchandacharya. This defines Samkhya as thoughts that give meaning to something. So when Madhusudan Saraswati writes in his commentary of the Gita, explains that Samkhya, Samya, Atma, Buddhi, meaning Samkhya is the knowledge of the soul. So in this and the next 19 verses, Sri Krishna breaks down all these theories in comprehensive terms to explain to Arjuna why he should fight in the battlefield. Samkhya theory looks at everything and takes in knowledge from all four directions. It's based on logic. Arjuna was using logical arguments why he should not go to war, and therefore the Lord has given logic to explain this to him first. If Arjuna was using emotional arguments, then the Lord would have to show him the way of bhakti, devotion first. Because Arjuna is talking about intellectual matters, Shri Krishna proved him wrong by the sword of logic. That is why Shri Krishna begins the Gita by speaking about Samkhya. Shri Krishna explains why he was smiling in the last verse. Arjuna was making big talk about a knowledgeable person, but he forgot the important fact that a knowledgeable person does not grieve for the dead. When a small child goes and starts making big talk to his mother, the mother thinks, have you come to teach me all of this? When Arjuna was talking about the consequences of war, the Lord simply thinks, do you think I do not know this? Are you telling me this? That is why Shri Krishna has a smile on his face. In Samkhya theory about life, there are two types of people, Gatasun and Agatasun. Samkhya theorists do not use the words living or dead, but Gatasun and Agatasun. Asu means the body, so Gatasun is someone whose life is gone, who in common language you refer to as dead, even though Samkhya theorists would never use this word. The person never goes because a person is the Atma and not the life. Atma never dies, it's only the life that goes. Agatasu means somebody whose life has not gone, or living in common language. So Samkhya theories say that people are either Gatasun or Agatasun. We are Agatasun because our lives are with us, and the time will come again when we are Gatasun. We will not die, only our bodies will go away. It is never a question of whether we are Atma or not, but it's rather a question of whether we have lives or not. So who are we? What is the difference between Gatasun and Agatasun? What is left when our lives go? We must try to understand the metaphysical knowledge behind this. Let us make a list. Imagine there's a big palace where the king lives. What would be the difference between the Gatasun and Agatasun this? Let us state the obvious. There is a palace. In that palace, who is living there? Manas, the king. So there's a king's room. In this, there is the Atma, the Buddhi, the intellect, and the subconscious mind sitting in the palace. The soul is the king, the intellect is the king's wife, the queen, and the subconscious mind is the prime minister. This is the inner chamber of the palace. This does not change whether it's Gatasun or Agatasun, whether one has a body or not. This will be in the same state and not be affected by this. Let us put an A next to the soul or the master. You can combine the intellect and the subconscious mind in one group under the letter B. They are always with the soul. Then we have the conscious mind, which we can call the deputy prime minister under C. After this, we have the prana, the life, which is the security guard and protector, which is D. Even after this, there are the senses and the body, which are both under category E, as they're always together in the majority of cases. The senses are the servant, and the body is a head servant, which makes them work together. For example, you cannot have an arm or eyes functioning on their own. You need something that joins them all together. You need someone to tell one servant to prepare water, the other to clean up, and another to prepare food. Without the head servant, if there are 10 servants, they might all walk to the bathroom. So the body, the butler, attributes these tasks to the senses, the servants. Finally, we have the world in which these things live and do their work. This is a palace, and we'll put this under F. So we have, in summary, A, the soul, the king, B, the intellect, the queen, and the subconscious mind, the prime minister, C, the conscious mind, the deputy prime minister, D, the prana, the life, the security guard, E, the senses, the servants, and the body, the head servants, and F, the world, which is the palace. When life comes, then we're Gatasun, so C, D, E, and F are there, and the conscious mind, the life, the senses, and the body, and the world come together in accordance with the context in which we're put. But when the life is gone, then the conscious mind, the life, the senses, the body, and the world all go. Because the life goes away, the world also goes away. The only reason why the world exists is because we are living. When we are agatasun, then the soul, the intellect, and the subconscious mind just stay as they are. The subconscious mind never leaves the imprints that it has gathered, and it takes them with it. The three things are not affected, and Shri Krishna is trying to say here that the wise people know that they are the Atma, the soul. They know that they are the king. The king is sitting in his room, and it does not matter to him who has been stationed outside as a security guard. Everything is assigned. Whether the security guard changes, comes, does not come, or is replaced, then it does not affect the king in any way. The king does not get unhappy and does not grieve. He is not affected. In the same way, it does not matter to a soul whether the life goes, does not go, or the soul takes another body. He is unattached. Who knows this is a true wise person. You are the soul. This is a true knowledge, and that is why it's the Samkhya knowledge. The word pandit is used in this verse, and it means panda vidyate asmin sa panditaha. Someone who has gained knowledge of the soul is a pandit. It makes me very sad when people in India call those who eat pan a pandit. Does a pandit light a stove? Where does the word pandit been taken? It is about the knowledge of the soul. It is about someone who has gained this knowledge so that they can give it to others. We are so good at misusing and in fact abusing words. How would a learned person feel if you call him the same name as a pan maker? This is the abuse of the name. He who knows about the soul, what interest has he in living? He cannot die. The pandit does not grieve about so-called death. Only others do. Only the person that does not know about the soul grieves for the dead. The person who is like a king and is unaffected, whichever security guards are stationed outside the palace throughout the years, this person sleeps in peace. He does not need to worry about who the security guard is. If he worries about whether there's a security guard or not, he will stay up thinking about it. The security guard will always stay there. The security guard is only there because he is there. It is only because the soul is there that the life is there. When there is no soul, then how will the body come? Where will the body go? I am the soul. Vedantis put it beautifully by looking at the phases of the moon. In the dark fortnight, the moon slowly appears darker and darker. On the full moon night, we can see the whole moon, but during the next fortnight, the moon appears darker and darker. On the day of Amas, one cannot even see the moon. It is still there, but one cannot see it. In the same way, the bodies go through similar phases. It is written in the scriptures, Jayate upasti loche, asti jayate vadale viparti, apikshaya nashyati. This meant that the body becomes manifest, gets born, grows up, changes, begins deteriorating, and eventually finishes. Every life goes through these 6 stages, or chagunas. The body has to go through these stages, not us and not the soul. Great personalities say that in a light tone, that whoever goes through these 6 stages, in them they're thinking chagun, 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 that they become chagan. In that way, when we think about the body, we're all chagan lals. When we're going through these 6 stages, but in reality, it's the body that goes through the 6 stages and not the soul. Therefore, when Arjun is talking about the person being killed, it is not the body being killed, it's the body being killed and not the soul. And the Lord explains this further in the next verse. So, verse 12. Krishna says, never was there a time when I was not, nor you, nor these lords of men, nor will there ever be a time hereafter where we should all cease to be. We see the beauty of Sanskrit in this verse. It uses double negatives, or neti, and that's a beautiful thing about the Sanskrit language. He says over here that never was there a time when we were not, meaning that we've always been there. Then he says, never will there be a time when we will not be there, meaning that we will always be there. There was never a time in the past when we were not there. We are here in the present, and there will never be a time in the future where we will not be. The meaning of this is that we are always existence, and to exist is our nature. The soul is always there. And the fact that exist is our nature. The Lord says that those people who say that we have 4 days and a dark night are wrong. We're always existing and we never go. Shri Krishna says that Arjun is worrying about something that is impossible. He thinks that all these people on the battlefield will die, but this is just not possible. He's worrying about an impossibility. If there is a small rabbit in the jungle and it keeps worrying about the sky falling on its head, then what will happen? No sane person will think this. It's impossible. In the same way, Arjun is thinking about something that is impossible. Remember this, that whenever someone keeps worrying about the impossible, then that worry always leads him towards despondency. If someone is worrying about the possible, then he can plan in relation to it and take steps to fix the problem. If I'm worrying that the ceiling will fall on my head, then it's a false worry, but I can do something about it by calling the engineers and asking them if it's secure and if it's been constructed properly. They may tell you that it's weak and they may take them a day to fix the problem, but if I'm worried about the sky falling on my head, then I will go towards despondency, as this will never happen. You cannot do anything about it, and that is why it will lead you towards madness and despondency. Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna that he is worried about such an impossible thing. If you take a moment and calmly look at the majority of our thoughts, then you will see that we are all like Arjuna. The things we are worried about are really not worth worrying about. They are useless worries. I'll show you a way to get rid of all your worries. Get a notebook and write on the first page, the book of worries. Whatever you're worried about, write it in that book. As soon as you get a worry, write it down in a notepad. A 20-year-old schoolgirl is starting her driving lessons and has gone in the car. She's told her mother that she'll be back at 8 p.m. and it's 8:30 p.m. The mother is getting worried, and so she puts it down in a notebook. My daughter has not yet come and I'm worried about it. What could have happened to her? Could she have been involved in an accident? Could she have been caught by the police? Because when one is in love, one thinks of the worst things first. The clock keeps ticking. 8:45 p.m., 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. and the mother keeps walking around back and forth from the bathroom to the balcony, again worrying about what could have happened. The daughter comes back waving her keys at 10 p.m. Her mother asks her where she was, and said she was just sitting with her friends in the hotel. She was having a party with her friends, but what happened to her mother? The worries that the mother wrote her out in the book became useless at 10 p.m. They were not worth worrying about. I will always say that you should keep writing about your worries. Then after 2 weeks, look back at those pages and you'll see what you were worried about. The ones that were useless, you should just cross out. You understand that the things you were worried about were not worth it. Only then can one become free from worries. Shri Krishna has given us the thought of eternity, but Arjuna is thinking, fair enough, there is a soul that's separate from the body, but what happens to the soul after one's death? We do not know this, and that is why we are afraid to death. We understand that the soul is immortal, but what if the body where does the body go during death, and what happens to the soul? We do not know, and that is why we're worried. That is why we're worried about death. As an answer to this, Shri Krishna gives us the next verse. Shloka 15, Shri Krishna says, as a soul passes in the body through childhood, youth and age, even so is its taking of another body. The sage is not perplexed by this. Shri Krishna uses the word dehi for the soul, meaning one who resides in the body. And you'll find this word in the Samkhya scriptures. The body goes through these phases of childhood, youth and age, and these phases do not happen immediately. We may accept that one becomes a youth when he turns 18, but it doesn't happen all of a sudden. For example, if someone's birthday is on 1st of April, then he becomes 1 year old between 31st of March and 1st April. But in that moment, when that second hand reaches a 12 on the clock, there's no sudden change in his nature. It's a gradual change that goes through these phases. The body goes through childhood, youth and age, and then takes on another body. This is a gradual process. The slowness does not get entranced. If I were to draw a graph, then at the start of the graph would be the birth, then it will go to childhood, and then youth, and then the age will start going back down again to the level of childhood. After a while, it'll stay at the bottom and start from birth again and go up to the level of childhood. After a while, it'll stay at the bottom and start again from birth, childhood, then youth, and then back down again, followed by birth again. The cycle keeps running over and over again. From the birth, the body starts its journey towards this. That is what we call life. After death, there is a next birth. The time in between is described in our scriptures. There's a verse, Vasyasya Jignani Yatihi Havi, which I'll come back to later in the studies. Some scriptures say that no time is taken up between this period of death and rebirth. It is just a gap. During that time, the soul is in its natural form, and then it gets its body. The patient soul is not reborn, as Krishna says in this verse. How can one become patient? 3 things are needed to become patient. The first is only a person that has faith in the soul can be patient. Secondly, only a person that has faith in Bhagwan can be patient. And we must have faith in Bhagwan. Thirdly, the person who surrenders to Bhagwan can become patient. Shri Krishna stresses this point again and again in his verses. we need to look at this word for patience, dhir. Dhir means the intellect. For example, in the Gayatri mantra, where it says Diyo yo na pachodiyat, meaning please enlighten our intellects. Ra means to give. So dhir means to give one's intellect to others. Therefore, one who offers the intellect to give information to others to achieve union with Bhagwan is patient. And a person becomes patient when the person has these three qualities. When I talk about patience, I always remember an event from the Mahabharata. When the Mahabharata war is over, the Pandavas were very grieved that they had lost their own people. In particular, Arjun was very sad that he had lost Abhimanyu, his son, in the war. In Hastinapur, Arjun took no interest and gave no concentration in ruling the kingdom. He kept remembering Abhimanyu, thinking he was so young and only 21 years of age. He had so much potential, and what would have happened if he had lived? They killed him in cold blood. Knowing that Abhimanyu only understood how to enter the spiral formation, but not how to get out, and knowing that he was his own, they killed him unrighteously. Arjun got very grieved about this. Shri Krishna saw that as long as Arjun stays in Hastinapur, he will always remember Abhimanyu, so he took him away for a while to a different place in a different environment. Shri Krishna told Arjun, let us go and travel for a while. They left and went to many places. And after that, they sat down in a garden outside the city one morning. The sun was rising, it was twilight, and the birds were singing. Then Arjun's gaze fell on a youth. In the garden, the youth was collecting flowers. As soon as he saw him, Arjun thought, if Abhimanyu was alive, he would have looked like this. Arjun remembered Abhimanyu. He kept looking at the youth, who was evidently a Brahmin, as he had a sacred thread around his body. As soon as Arjun remembered Abhimanyu, tears started coming out of his eyes. Shri Krishna was watching all of this. All of a sudden, the youth started screaming and fell to the ground. Arjun could not bear to see this and ran to the dead boy's head in his lap, saying, what has happened? Liquid was coming out of the youth's mouth. And the youth said, I do not know who you are, and it does not matter anymore because a poisonous snake has bitten me. I am the only son to a blind father, and I do not think I will live. So please can you deliver these flowers to my father for his worship, and please can you give him the news that I will not return home because a poisonous snake has bitten me. Arjun said, do not worry, nothing will happen. He kept giving the youth assurances, and the youth left his body. Shri Krishna came and stood next to Arjun and told him, come Arjun. Arjun replied, where my lord? Shri Krishna said, to give news to his father that his son has left his body. Arjun said, Lord, I will not be able to go. I have lost my Abhimanyu and know what it feels like to lose one's own son. How can I tell a blind father that his son is no more? Shri Krishna said, you have to go, Arjun, because you have given a promise to a dying man. Arjun picked up the bunch of flowers and stood up. They started a search. They saw a boy playing around in the city and asked him, is there a Brahmin in this town who's blind and has only a son? The boy said, you're talking about Yagnadutta. Keep walking straight. And when you see a parrot in the front lawn reciting hymns for the Vedas, then that is the house of that Brahmin. That is how learned he is. They went around and heard the Vedic mantras coming out of the parrot's mouth. They knocked on the door, and an elderly blind person came out saying, have you come back, son? Arjun gave his answer that the Supreme Being, Shri Krishna, is here, and I have come with him. The Brahmin got so happy that Shri Krishna has come. I'm so grateful that you have come, Bhagwan. There is a bed here, so please come in. My son has got these flowers and he'll be coming here soon. After he comes, I will worship you and I will honor you. Arjun said, that son. The Brahmin replied, I'll tell you about that son. What a son I have. Bhagwan has kept me blind for my whole life, but he has given me such a great son that my blindness from my birth has stopped hurting. He is so nice. Arjun said, yes, your son. He is only 18 years of age, but he has learned all of the Vedas and recite all the Vedas by heart. In his whole town, there is not one boy who is enlightened as my son. Bhagwan, it is with your divine blessings that I have got such a son. As soon as Arjun said the word son, the Brahmin would start a new sentence about his son. And the more that he was praising his son, Arjun started thinking, how can I tell him that his son has left his body? Arjun looked at the Lord, implying that he would not be able to tell this man. Shri Krishna tells him, Arjun, you have to say it. As the Brahmin kept continuously talking about his son, Arjun put a stone in his heart's place and told the Brahmin, that son you are praising is no more. He was gathering flowers in the garden and a poisonous snake has bit him. He had left his body, he has sent us to pass this news to you, and he sent these flowers. As soon as he gave these words to the Brahmin, they were like lightning to him. He sat down immediately and tears started flowing out of his eyes. His eyes remained closed for a few moments and then he opened his eyes. to tell the Supreme Being, Bhagwan, did I not tell you that my son is special? Look, he has gone, but in going, he has given me the opportunity to see you, and so that I could worship you properly, he has sent these flowers. Saying this, he fell at the Lord's feet, saying, Lord, whatever pleases you will happen. Shri Krishna tells Arjun that, Arjun, you heard the Gita, but he has not heard it. He has so much faith in me that he says that whatever pleases me will happen. This is called patience, my friend. Faith in the soul, faith in Bhagwan, and surrender to Bhagwan. Whatever happens, it is so that we can achieve union with Bhagwan, and it's with Bhagwan's intention. A patient person does not become entranced by this. There's a very beautiful mantra in the Chandogya Upanishad that says, Vevaha Brahma Rupe Murtancheva Murtancha Murtancha Amrutchancha. This describes the two forms of Brahman. Firstly, Amruta and Amar, and second, Murta and Martya. The first means formless and immortal. That which is formless is immortal, but as soon as it achieves a form, then it is mortal, then it has the characteristics of being eliminated. Whatever is created is also destroyed. Whatever appears also disappears. The poet Sagir has written a very beautiful piece where he says, because the body has taken a form, it will be finished. And he who thinks that we are just reading these words to discount the body, the very breaths are shortening their lifespan because they're taking their breaths depending on their lives for support. The breaths that people are taking depend on their lives. Those very breaths are making their life short. All lives come to an end. How does life come? How is life made? Our scriptures give a very good answer to this. When the wind is blowing and it creates ripples in the sea's waters, the actual water is not affected by this. The water does not increase or decrease because of the ripples created by the blowing wind. It is just moving as a result of the wind. When the wind stops blowing, then the sea becomes calm. This is because of the wind. Therefore, the wind does not affect the quantity of the water. In the same way, when breath blows, then life starts. When this life meets the soul, then it's like a ripple in the sea of the soul. When the breath stops, then the soul becomes calm. However many lives come, the content of the soul is not affected. It stays the same. That is what is written in the Samkhya scriptures. The soul is unaffected by all this because it knows about all this. Arjun is then thinking, Lord, the body has no relations with anything at the beginning, and when it's finished, then all these relations also come into end. But Lord, while we have the body, these relations are they not? In the 100 or so years that we live, we will have relations. These relations give us happiness and sadness. When we have the relations with some people, then it feels good. When we have relations with others, then it feels wrong. This happiness and sadness is there, Bhagwan. I'm feeling it. It is my experience. What about that? When we die, do we not lose these relations? And that is why these people grieve and are sad. If this grief not right, Lord, if I'm here in this world and I die, is it not my loved ones that feel this grief? The happiness they gave me will be gone. Then what? Shri Krishna gives us answer to this question in the next verse, which is the last verse we'll do today. Krishna says, contacts with the objects of son of Kunti give rise to cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They come and go and do not last forever. These learn to endure, O Bharata. Shri Krishna is telling Arjun that if he thinks that happiness and sadness comes while we have the body, then that is also not possible. It is impossible. And these things come and go. Most scholars define matra used in this verse as senses. It is because of the contact with the senses with the objects that we get pleasure and pain. Ice cream is the object and the tongue is a sense. As soon as the ice cream touches the tongue, then we have a feeling of pleasure. Some scholars have gone into much detail on this and said that the definition of matra includes not just the senses, but also nature, material happiness of this world, and even matter. Sanchuta has put it very nicely that nature, material happiness of this world, and matter are very close. Material happiness comes out of matter, and they're very close. Therefore, it's because of contact with matter that we get pleasure and pain. Even in Urdu, there's a word mata, which includes all material objects. So objective happiness comes from illusions. Ultimately, the things that senses make contact with is matter, and this gives us the majority of pleasures and pains. If you see a beautiful flowers, our eyes make contact with it, and therefore we get what we call this pleasure, okay? We see a beautiful person and we're happy. We see an ugly person and we're sad. What are these things? They are illusions. How? Because only the senses know them. When it is winter, then the heat feels pleasurable, and when we put the heater on. But when hot weather comes after a few months, then we don't need heat, but we need coolness. So there was a time when heat felt good, and another time when coolness felt good. When we drink a hot cup of hot tea in the winter, then we like it a lot. But when the weather is warm, then we like a glass of ice cold water. Will we like that cold water in cold weather? No, because at the time, it did not give you happiness, but in the summer it does. And the things that we do not like, where there's heat, we like when there's cold. This is an illusion. You can put all the pleasures under this definition. They're all transient. Kabirji has written a very nice doha. Ja dinte jiv janmaya, kabu na paye sukh, dali dali mefira, pate pate dukh. It means that he tried to collect the fruits of pleasures in his basket, but when he looked around, he only found the thorns of pain in all of them. It is human nature that whenever pleasures come, they leave behind pain. Because of illusion, the pleasures become manifest and then go. They never stay because they are transient. There are three reasons for this. The first is the law of diminishing returns. Who studied economics? Law of diminishing returns, yeah? Which can be found in economics language. When a mango season starts, who likes mangoes here? Do you like mangoes? Veda? Yeah? You like mangoes? When the mango season starts and you drink mango juice, it first tastes like nectar. But the pleasure from the first bowl of mango juice cannot be found in the second. And the pleasure in the second bowl of mango juice cannot be found in the third. By the time you've had your fourth one, then you've had enough, but you may have a fifth one. How many glasses do you have of mango juice? 5? Oh my gosh, there's an exception to the rule. If someone offers you the 6th, then you'll say no. The first bowl was like nectar, but why then are we now saying no? You should keep having more if you liked it the first time. This is a law of diminishing returns. This happens in relation to pleasures, but also in relation to pains. When a person gets used to sadness, then he cannot go without it. When he gets the next sad moment, then he does not feel sad. When compared with his previous moments, this one seems nothing. This character by the name of Chhatralia got some new shoes. They were new shoes, so he thought they were tight and he was getting shoe bite. They were hurting him so much, so he struggled to walk to work. The receptionist at his office asked him, "Have you bought small shoes?" He replies, "I do not know, but they definitely hurt." The receptionist said, "Why don't you change them or get them molded? Why are you tolerating this pain?" Chhatralia said that there's a reason for this. For when I wear these shoes for a day and come home to take them off, the scream I let out from the pain drowns out the shouting of my wife. He does not feel a thing when she is shouting or nagging. On many occasions, a person also wants sadness. After several sad moments, the pain of sadness goes away. This is the first thing, the law of diminishing averages. Secondly, in order to tolerate pains and pleasures, one must be prepared to have these feelings. Only then can pleasures and pains be born from illusion make contact with the senses. If delicious and nice food is made and you're not hungry, then can delicious and nice food give you pleasures? No. We say in Gujarati, "Bhuk na bare rotlo, ane ma bare otlo." If one is hungry, then even a dry chapati will be sweet to him. But if one is not hungry, then even well-prepared, delicious dishes are useless to him. So is there really pleasure in that thing? One needs to be prepared to have that feeling. It is not necessary that one is just prepared internally to enjoy them every time those pleasures come. Sometimes a thing will come and will feel pleasure, and sometimes it will not. I use the example for food, but similar examples can be found for all the senses. One time we're enjoying a television program on Netflix, and other times we don't enjoy it. If we're in certain moods, then we enjoy watching certain films. When people are in love, then they enjoy watching sad films, or they keep playing sad songs on their music like Dev does. But when they're happy and someone plays a sad song, then you tell them off to turn it off. You must be prepared to have these feelings through your eyes and your ears, etc. Thirdly, all these different bodies cannot give the same pleasure every time. Tunde tunde matiri bina. 3 phrases in these sentences are important. Different bodies, same pleasure every time. This keeps changing. If there's a fruit basket and there's some bananas with bad skin and we can't eat them properly, they've gone too soft. But once we've thrown them away and we're happy, the bees will start having a party. Therefore, the very thing that made us happy when we threw away made others happy made us happy when they got it. The object is one, and therefore it's illusion. Fair enough, we accept that context of the senses with the objects leads to pleasure and pain. These pleasure and pains are illusion and they're transient. The scriptures explain pleasure and pain very well. Akulam vediyam sukham pratilam vidyam dukkam. If we like something, then it gives us pleasure, and if we find something unfavorable, then it gives us pain. Another scripture is also trying to explain this to us. Pratikaro upatyate sukhamati parishyati jana. When we're worried about something or in trouble, and we're saved from that worry or trouble, then one thinks that gives that pleasure. Imagine that one person is thirsty and starts crying out, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. If you go and give him a glass of water, he'll drink that water and say, thank you, you've given me a great pleasure. We gave him water and he said it gave him pleasure. Therefore, we can put a label on that water that it gives us happiness. If another person is drowning in water, then can we say that he is drowning in pleasure? No, we cannot say this. For the thirsty person, the water was a thing of pleasure, but for the drowning person, the water was a thing of pain. This means that the water gives us neither pleasure or pain, because both of these things come because of our relationship with water. If you generalize this, then no item gives us pleasure or pain, because both of these things depend on our relationship with that thing. If we take this even further, then no person gives us pleasure or pain, as both of these things depend on our relationship with that person. If one person gives us pleasure, then we cannot go for one day without speaking to that person. But another person gets pain from that person, then you won't even want to go near that person. In the same way, a person who we do not like may be a nectar to someone else. Therefore, people give us neither pleasure nor pain, because both of these things depend on our relationship with that person. If pleasure and pain do not come from a thing or person, but because of our relationships with them, then who decides those relations? The mind decides those relations. They are there because of the mind. Therefore, can we train the mind so that it only gets pleasures from all of these things, people and situations? From this, saint poets have given us an answer. Honsata mota chugai, meaning the mind can be like a little bird that keeps picking up little precious stones of pleasure. Sri Krishna gives this training where he says, Tams Tikshisha Bharata. He says that these pleasures and pains will come and go, but you learn to endure them. This is the ultimate remedy. You must face them. When you are happy, then don't go running around like a lunatic. And when you are sad, then don't put your hand in your eyes and start crying. Learn to face them. How much can you change your outside circumstances? People try to become happy by changing the outside circumstances. After I get this, I'll be happy. My husband and wife is like this, and only after she changes, I'll be happy. This means that your happiness is in somebody else's hands, and your happiness is in the outside. Your happiness is controlled by someone else with a remote control, and the buttons he or she presses makes you happy or sad. What can someone else change? If someone changes, then the third or fourth person may not change. What guarantee is there? A person that tries to be happy after trying to change other people can never be happy. Therefore, whatever the outside circumstances are like, face them and learn to endure them. This is what Sri Krishna teaches us. If you have the power and the ability to endure this, then there will be nothing to worry about in your life. The Lord mentions cold and heat in His word. When we have cold and heat, then it makes a big difference to us. If a temperature drops 25 degrees to 20 degrees, then we start wearing shawls and sweaters. And when the temperature goes up from 30 degrees to 31 degrees, then we start turning the air conditioner on. Our range is very small. But when we see a farmer laboring on a farm, then even if it's 10 degrees and he labors in a farm wearing little clothes, when the temperature goes up to 40 degrees, then it does not matter to him. Even if he's sweating a lot, he carries on laboring. His range is so large because he's learned to endure these. In the same way, whatever opposite feelings that arise from the senses' contact with objects, a person must learn to tolerate these. However much a person learns to increase the range of endurance, the person will be that much calmer, stable, and happier. The Lord tells us to learn to endure these. We might then ask the Lord whether it's possible to have pleasures if we had not had the experience of pain, or whether we can have the experience of pleasure on its own. Are there more pleasures or pains in this world? This is a very interesting question, and Sri Krishna gives us the answer in the next verse. We're running out of time, and I'm conscious we had some Q&A scheduled, so let us finish the talk and let's do some Q&A. Anyone got any questions? Okay.
No questions?
No questions? Shall I carry on? Next talker then?
I think we have to conclude this.
Okay, fine.
There is no questions from anyone?
Yes.
This is from which chapter, which part of it?
chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called like Samkhya is the beginning of the Karma Yoga. To understand Karma Yoga in one sentence is essentially performing works with the knowledge that I am not the body. So these early verses break down that distinction between who you are and what the body is. Because if you look at it in life, we always go through two circumstances. You've probably seen the yin and yang in Chinese culture, is stability and chaos. We keep going stability, chaos, stability, chaos. Some people identify themselves too much with that stability and they become arrogant because everything keeps going well. And when they go into that chaos, everything falls apart. Other people attach themselves too much into that chaos. They become nihilistic. They think everything is bad. They become depressive and gloomy and miserable. But rather than identifying the person in stability or identifying the person in pain, identify yourself with the person that moves between those two states. Whenever we learn something in life, it's usually very painful. And Vedanta teaches us that when we go through a painful situation in life, that part of us which is not needed, the part of us that is not needed for our development, dies, it goes away, and we become an evolved and better person. And that is the reason for why we have these certain lessons in life. And so when you detach yourself from the feeling that you're the body, you perform actions with the knowledge that I am the Atma, you go away from this cycle. And what is this cycle? There's a cycle that keeps going on in our mind. First of all, you perform, you get an experience. The experience registers as an impression in your mind, yeah? The impression results in thought waves in your mind, which come out desires. That desire prompts you to perform an action, and when you perform the action, you get the experience, which is called the Borg. And then you get, after experience, the impression comes in. From that experience comes the thought waves. Thought waves comes desires. Desires prompts you to action. And from action, the experience and impression. So a cycle is going again and again and again. That is because the sense of you feeling that you're the body. So when you detach yourself from the body, the first teaching of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, shloka 11, is that the wise person does not grieve for the dead or the living, because you are not the body, you are the Atma. So that is essentially, chapter 2, which is the foundation of what Karma Yoga is. People think Karma is like selfless service. Selfless service is, but you can do whatever. You can be doing your prayer, you can be doing your work, everything. But if you do it with the knowledge that I am not the body, I am not the mind, then that is what Karma Yoga is. Because when you were born, you weighed 7 pounds. Now you're 70 pounds. What happened? That body changed, but you are still there, right? The body is an accumulation of food. The mind is accumulation of impressions. Some saints say the joke that the mind is the garbage bin that society gives you. It's accumulation of impressions. So if the body is accumulation of food, the mind is accumulation of impressions. Anything you accumulate can never be you. It can be yours, but it can never be you. It's accumulation. So what was there when a person dies, when a person passes away, where have his the body is still there, where have his likes and dislikes gone? Where is his mind gone? All of these things have gone away because we are not the body. The life force has gone away. We are beyond the body. We are beyond the mind. We are the Atma. And if you look at all suffering in life, there are only two types of suffering: bodily suffering and mental suffering. So when you perform the Karma Yoga, knowledge that I am not the body, I am not the mind, can you have any suffering? No. It frees you from the suffering, which is essentially what Karma Yoga is. And the Bhagavad Gita describes in detail. I can only touch briefly on this topic, but we don't earn a penny from any of the work we do. Our talks are all available online. 225 hours of talks in English on a Bhagavad Gita on our website, gitaclass.org. Let me just give you some details so you can register. Get out your phones. There's two things I would refer you to. Our website, which is www.gitaclass.org, has all our online talks of the Bhagavad Gita, Hanuman Chalisa, Ramayana, and so on. We also have 33 WhatsApp groups run by our 33 teachers, where every day we post a shlok. Radhakrishna Ji and many others are part of they post a shlok on the Bhagavad Gita and Hanuman Chalisa. No one can post on this group apart from our teachers. We have the settings done that way. And I post occasionally at lunchtime as well. So let me give you the number to join one of these WhatsApp groups. Just send your full name. It is 07904 720 516. So I'll just repeat the website first. Website is www.gitaclass.org. Gitaclass.org, all one word. and the number is 07904 720 516. So gitaclass.org, 07904 720 516, and you'll be updated about our events through those WhatsApp groups. Everyone got that?
07904
720 516. 07904 720 516. So any other questions?
on the website.
Gitaclass.org. GITACLASS.org. Yeah.
Just a quick one. Could you cater for children as well later on
Yeah.
as you develop your site and all that? Because obviously they are our future.
Yes, that's right. For children, we recommend we have talks on the Srimad, on the Ramayana, which are very, very basic, easy, all stories, but in an understandable way for children. But we also have some books. We've got a Hanuman Chalisa book here, which is targeted for children in English and also adults as well. It's about the lessons in kind of career management according to the Hanuman Chalisa. We've got the Srimad Bhagavad book, which is completely for children. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's philosophy. The Srimad Bhagavad is about Krishna's life. And so we've got the book there. You can order it. I can give you the number. Our distributors here in the UK, and you can order that as well. Many other books that we've got. We gave the first talk on the Srimad Bhagavad at Parliament this year, which was our 300th talk. So absolutely, it's very, very important that we focus on educating our youngsters, because they're always faced with challenges. They're always faced with challenges as to, I know, I was saying, one of my nieces goes to a school in Luton, and the kids from the other religions, they talk on how to write their name in Arabic. Do any of our kids, except for wonderful children like Veda and Manas, they know how to speak Sanskrit? How can we able to write Sanskrit in our language? And it's very, very important that we educate the children, and we're doing that. What we need, we've got the resources, we've got the teachers. We need a bit more of an infrastructure for you guys to invite us, get more people. We want to convert more audience members into teachers. And it's very easy to become a teacher once you've completed our course, because you don't have to pay anything, you don't have to travel anywhere, you can do it in your own room, you don't have to learn any language, it's all in English. So we've broken down the geographical boundaries, the language barriers, cost barriers. You just have to sit there and listen to it. So we made it very, very easy, which wasn't available when I was growing up. So it is very, very important that the youngsters are educated from a young age. Because it becomes much harder when they go to university and they become influenced. And I always say a youngster's mind is like a horse. If you don't teach it anything, it'll pick up whatever rubbish there is on the floor. And so it's very, very important that the horse, the mind, is nourished well with the thoughts of the Gita, and a thought that appeals to them, what they can challenge, and it's proven to them after they challenge, just like I've spoken today. And when it's proven to them that way, they become more passionate about it than their parents are, because the parents' generation were just told what to do and they followed it. But the modern generation are not like that. We're much more of an intellectual generation. And the beauty of it is that Sanatana Dharma is real. It is true. It is science. And that's so easy in this age of Google and mobile phones to prove it to them. And the resources are there. And what we need is more teachers out there spreading the word. We're completely free, non-financial organization. So you go out and do the seva. And another amazing organization, the Sadgamaya Foundation. I'd just like to say a big round of applause to the volunteers. They've been trying for so long to organize this event and done so much promotion to have like such a big crowd here to learn the Bhagavad Gita. So much work is done behind the scenes. There are many people you see in front of you, but there's many people who work in the background, hard work, perform that karma yoga to make these events happen. And it's because of these special people like this that would reach the stage of parliament and so on. And I'm trying to get more people like that to do the seva, be it whatever art you do, be it photography, be it organization of the room, be it speaking. The resources are there. So please come and join us and join our talks and take Hinduism to a new level for the future generations. So big round of applause again to the Any other questions?
Any other questions? Ajayji?
Yes.
I have a small question for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was very interesting and thought-provoking.
Thank you.
I felt that was fantastic.
Thank you.
My question is that can you define the metaphysics as we have been talking in terms of spirituality and the differences between spirituality and the religion?
Yes, very, very good question. It's one of my favorite questions and a favorite topic of mine. So Dharma and religion people equate them as the same thing. Spirituality, there's this new movement that's arisen, I'm spiritual but not religious. Dharma is different from religion, and it's different from spirituality, completely different. So dharma comes from the root word dhrutu, meaning the natural law that upholds things. Religion is something that is given by a higher authority. It could be like a prophet, or like Jesus Christ or whatever that's come to give you the rules, a code that you must live your life in this way. Whereas dharma is had a beginning, right? And if something has a beginning, it must have an end. Whereas dharma has been there from the beginning. The Sanatan Dharma, it was there from the beginning of time. And if something hasn't got a beginning, can never have any end. It's the natural law that governs the whole universe. Religion can only apply to human beings because you live a code that applies to human beings. Whereas dharma, a monkey can have a dharma, an atom can have a dharma. It applies to the whole of the cosmos. And the dharma, there are various aspects to it. There's a universal dharma, and there's an individual dharma as well. The swadharma is what Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 teaches. Each individual has a unique purpose for which they were born, and through meditation and the practice of the yoga, you learn that swadharma. But there's also a dharma that encompasses the innate universe. There's this concept in our shastras called Matsya Naya, where if there's a fish, a bigger fish feeds on that fish, then a bigger fish feeds on that fish, and then a bigger fish feeds on that fish, until there is no space left in the ocean. And when a person is all focused about the individual dharma, they're not concerned about society, they utilize all the resources and people in this world and exploit it, which has happened because of religion, because the religions outside India have this feeling that the world is there for their benefit, so they can eat any animals they want, they can abuse the environment, whereas our dharma sees us as whatever is in me is the same in you, so we don't abuse and mistreat other human beings in terms of physical violence, be it like eating meat, or mental violence, like saying wrong things to people, harming them mentally, and also not harming ourselves. Is very, very important, this concept of ahimsa, because it's the same thing, the atma that's contained in me is contained in you. I cannot harm you. And the same thing in animals, they have the atma as well as the environment. And another aspect of dharma is that sacred geography, we regard rivers, we regard the earth. Before, Hindus in ancient times used to wake up, they used to apologize to the Mother Earth for stepping on her. The whole culture was based around not taking more from this planet than you give, whereas the West, it was all built on exploitation, using the resources of oil and throwing plastic bags in the water for our benefit. And the whole religion was based on the fact that in order to make yourself happy, you don't try to improve yourself, but you try to change the outside world. Whereas in Dharma, it doesn't matter what's happening in the outside world, we're focused on improving ourselves and getting to that innate state. And another like a really, really important thing is that there's three ways of looking at the world. You can either look up, which is what I call religion. When you look up, how do you know in the mind what's up and what's down? That's hallucination, right? The other way is you can look out, which is materiality. And because of that, we built railroads, we built palaces, we degraded the earth and the planet we live in. And the third way, instead of looking up, instead of looking out, why don't we look within? That is essentially what Dharma is, because our natural law, that natural law of the universe is what is contained within. So that shloka I said, Sambhavam Yuge Yuge, I come into being from time to time, that when the incarnation comes, when the state of the planet is such that the people are abusing the adharma, which is not like someone who's not religious, it's someone who is not is performing their behavior and acts not in accordance with natural law, in accordance with the laws of the cosmos. And when that happens, when that becomes prevalent, the incarnation comes to put that all into balance. And it's very, very important that in religion, they call disbelievers, infidels, they call them kafirs, they call them heathens, the people who don't believe in that religion, who are not atheists. Whereas in Hinduism, the concept of atheism has a very central role. In the Charvak system, it was a very profound way of thinking, and you can still be an atheist and be a Hindu, whereas that's not possible in religions. And so that's a big fundamental difference. Any other questions?
Let me put a thought like, can religion be a practice to reach Dharma?
Religion be a practice too?
Can be defined as a practice to reach Dharma?
Dharma,
The
yes.
peak of Dharma.
Yes, absolutely. It's a religion. I draw the distinction.
At least for Hinduism.
When we say religion, we can say we could say Siddhartha Dharma, right? So there's two ways to identify your Dharma. You either learn it with the practice of yoga, because when you practice yoga, you learn, yoga is from the root yuj, which to unite the individual with divinity. So when you turn within, you're naturally in alignment with Dharma and natural law. The second is by the Shastras and the studies of our scriptures. And there's two types of Shastras. There's Smritis and Shrutis. So there's one type of Shastras which no matter what happens, they don't have an author like the Vedas. So no matter what time, what year, what millennium it is, they apply. And then there's Smritis, which only apply to certain periods of time. So they always have an author. For example, if I write a book, it's written by Dhruv Chhatralia, which is applicable to that time, but it's subservient to the books which are authorless, like the Vedas, which apply throughout all time. And by study of those Shastras, which are written by self-realized rishis and yogis, and there is nothing in the Shastras which is incorrect, which can all be proved from a yogic perspective, from a scientific perspective, by learning and doing the swadhyaya of the Shastras, you can learn towards Dharma. But it's very, very important. It's very difficult to attain that sense of self-realization without a guru. Because there's so many translations and so much rubbish you see on Google, you can never really practice your Dharma without the presence of that guru in your life, a mentor. And that's the same with any field. To become great in any field, you need to learn from the master in that field. So that's how you attain your Dharma. Yeah.
Any more questions? Ajay?
Yeah.
Dhruv, I know you've been around the Houses of Parliament, etc. One of the key influences, and I'm a governor at the Sanatana Hindu Mandir in Wembley, we get a lot of sons coming around talking about the Gita. But their context, their actual style that you presented today is completely different. It's much more religious and much more dharmic. So are you doing anything specifically to talk to these people that come in from India, very well versed, very well known, but the analogies you presented today are quite refreshing?
Yeah.
And would sink in a lot quicker with the younger people.
Yes.
So are you looking to work with these people so that they can actually do this? And I don't mean preach to them. I mean actually talk with them, because you know, an evening session after the main session of the Bagavad Gita would be refreshing in the other context that you presented today.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I mean, website's great.
Yeah.
Facebook's fabulous.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like a face-to-face.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, and it's very, very important where you have a living example of the Guru, because if you look at our teachers, we have 33 people who teach the Bhagavad Gita, but they've learnt it from me. And so if I've learnt something from my Guru directly, I've learnt, let's say, 75%. Whatever I've learnt, only 50% of that can go to them, not the 100%, which comes from the actual source. So it's very important to have these dialogues in person, and our scriptures value the power of the spoken word. The Upanishads themselves mean to sit near the divinity or the rishi or the guru. And my experiences, I've been doing these talks for 8 years, and I've had various different types of experiences. So our WhatsApp groups has like the chairpersons of many different organizations, and the experiences I've had with different organizations, you've seen just from this talk alone, I've included the works of at least about 10-15 gurus. And throughout our course, we've included over the teachings of over 300 saints. The problem we often get with some other organizations is they like to stick to one guru or one god. Like, I only believe in one god, every other god is this concept of demigods is arisen, which is an offensive concept in Sanatana Dharma, where we have many different gods. And then this concept of only my guru and no other gurus. And this one-itis is a big problem, because in our lives, we all have 100 gurus. From your young age, your mother taught you how to walk, and she's your first guru. How can someone just have one guru throughout their lives? And in our Vedas, it says that let the noble thoughts come to us from all directions, because there's this rigidity in our system. People are not open to kind of accepting other thoughts and stuff like that, and they're not opening their mind, as a result of which they don't benefit themselves. And that rigidity is very prevalent in a lot of these large organizations. And I think it's, if someone is insecure about their teachings, they'll work hard to prevent that. They won't follow another teaching. Whereas if someone is comfortable about their teachings, if you're part of our WhatsApp group, you see we share the teachings of so many gurus and rishis, and my guru is completely comfortable with that. He's in our group. And so because we're so comfortable about our teachings, we're able to share and work with that. But that saying, we've had a lot of organizations as well, some good organizations really promote us and put us forward and introduce us to Parliament. But they tend to be the non-religious organizations, and they've just like it's appealed to you, it's appealed to them as well, and they've been great.
And I've had a lot of support from non-Hindus as well, because they've seen the value in these teachings, they've seen the beauty of these teachings, something different, an alternative to religion, an alternative to materialism, the beauty it provides. And so the people who actually hosted the first talk on the Ramayana and Srimad Bhagavatam at the BG Tower were African people who hosted us. They were Christian people. The people who brought us in Parliament were Christian people as well. So we've had a lot of support from the other religions, but a lot of obstacles put in our way. And we've had to really work with the grassroots and work really, really hard. And it's all through word of mouth that it's been spreading, and as well as social media. Because social media has enabled us to escape those avenues and that Baba who's sitting here and here, who never lets us go through. So that's how it's worked. And through that tapasya, we've learned a lot of lessons, and we operate according to that. So it's been a tough journey in terms of having these dialogues with people. But now, because we've been prevalent, now people won't have dialogues with us. That's it.
Well, you're working with Vivayo, Balvihar, Chinmaya Mission.
Yes.
And these guys are all out there.
Yes.
Influencing the young.
Yes.
And they're very young, as you can see.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bhajans are great, reciting is good, but a good understanding is quite important.
Very.
What are you doing to actually work with these guys to actually make sure this gets relayed?
I have reached out to these people. I've been trying to reach out for a couple of years. To give you an example, there was a couple of elder people that for Chinmaya who came here, but as soon as I started to speak, they left the room. I've been friends with some of them, personal friends with some of them, but they have not attended any of my talks. They've received invites for 8 years now, and so there's a close personality. At the same time, some of the organizations, like you get sometimes in ISKCON, they're very, very kind of rigid, that they believe in one God. But there's other people from ISKCON who, through the devotion of Krishna, have become some of our best teachers. Because I think it depends on the individual and their gunas and their qualities, what they're in it for. Are they in there for like the status, the material status, or are in there to actually gain something and to give something genuinely to society? And so that's been my experience. And so my organization was actually set up because the Chinmaya people wouldn't kind of accompany, have us give the talks. I spoke to them, and so I just set up at my law firm, and we did 140 talks there, and and they all started coming to our talks, and so that's the that's the issue about. So I quoted Chinmaya a few times in our WhatsApp group, and I've supported these gurus, but the reaction I've had from a lot of these other organizations is only my guru and only my one God. And this one-itis is a big problem. Yeah, the word universe, the whole concept of universe is many people in one. Every single creature, and there's not a single person in the history of the world who has the same fingerprints as anyone in the world, not just living now, but in the past or in the future. Everyone is unique, and enforcing kind of one God, one guru in everyone has never been what is Dharma, or according to one nature. And this is the experience I've had, and I've learned really like the reality of what actually goes on in our community, what the weakness is here. And we've dealt with that, but through that people have seen the genuineness in our talks, and people like the parliamentarians have really helped us, and wonderful people like Krishna Ji and the team at Sadgamaya Foundation. And it's because of good people like that that have enabled us to give us this platform. So it's a very good question. Very good question, hitting the reality of what actually happens. And it's very, very important that we discuss these topics, because they become the elephant in the room. Any other questions?
Okay, we can conclude, I think.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We all can agree that we have only scratched the surface. And we could have sat here for hours together listening to this, and you have an amazing way of speaking like storytelling. You're a master storyteller, and you got my little ones engaged.
It's superb. It's really marvelous.
Please. Your little ones got me engaged when they were so beautifully chanting the shlokas.
Thank you. I think we vote of thanks.
Namaste all. What an exciting evening. As individuals, we do spend time in the evenings with family, watching movies, eating out. But I would say today, this evening, this is something truly exceptional. As a family, we were all learning the art, the discipline of selfless action as a way forward for perfection. And the pathway for the unselfish action is well explained. There is lots of food for thought, and I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dhruv Chhatralia. And wonderful bhajan by Wonder Kids of Saranjali Bhajan Group. Excellent bhajan, thank you. And finally, dear family members, you are the strength. Thank you all joining here this evening with Team Sadgamaya for this Kama Yoga evening. Thank you so much for coming in. And before you all going back home, enjoy some lovely warm food. As the weather is not great outside, drive home safe, and see you all next Sadgamaya event. Once again, thank you. Namaste. Shubh Ratri.